Thank you all for being here. It's great to be back to our regularly scheduled program after a month off and then our picnic. We do have our next 2 meetings scheduled and ready to go. So if you look on your tables, there's information about that. So if you want to put those in your calendar, we have those ready to go. Thank you to Haven Hills for the meal. That was awesome. Huge blessing. We thank you for that. Speaking of meals, we do rely a lot on people, organizations donating meals. So if your church, your business, any organization you're part of, or you know of one that would be willing to donate a meal for a monthly meeting, that would be amazing. You can get a hold of me. That could either look like funds for us to purchase a meal. It could be catering or a homemade meal. We're not fussy at all. So if you can think of anybody, that'd be great. On your way out, there is a bunch of items over there in the wagon. Those were donated from a vacation Bible school in Washburn. And it's all a bunch of goodies for our kids. So there's water bottles, some cinch sacks, toothbrush and toothpaste. If your households are anything like mine, books, you go through a lot of toothpaste and toothbrushes. So you can grab some of that on your way out. And I think that's it for announcements. We got a special 2 speakers tonight. We got a special announcement about an upcoming missions. So I'm going to have Lori Desir come up here and she's going to introduce Sam and we get to hear a little bit about his story.
Thank you. So who has seen the Sound of Hope movie? Didn't you all go to that? Wasn't it so good? So basically, that's what my son Sam is going to be doing in Africa. You know, the story of the Sound of Hope was that this pastor and his wife and 22 families in their community, and it's a true story, in the mid-90s in, what's the name of the town again? I forgot the Possum Trot, Texas, yes. 22 families adopted 77 kids. Isn't that just crazy? And my favorite part of the movie was at the end, towards the end, when the pastor called the social worker and said, okay, I've got a few more families who will take more foster kids. And the social worker said, guess what? You've cleaned us out. We don't have anyone that doesn't have a home and they've all been adopted. Oh, I love that. So, right. Sorry. So this is my little boy, and the t-shirt, do you want to show him the back? The fight for kids begins. And that's what he's going to be doing.
Well, thank you for letting me speak. First of all, I would like to say a thank you guys for doing foster care and being a good example of how like families are and for these kiddos. So we will start at the beginning. Maybe. Oh. There we go. This is me right here, sitting down, rubbing my face. So I was born in Haiti, and then I was attacked by rats in the hospital. And then shortly after that, I was taken to the orphanage, and my mom happened to be a missionary in Haiti at the time, and she adopted me. And then we stayed, yeah. And then we stayed in Haiti till the 5th grade, and then we moved to the United States. And then I went to Shiloh, and after I graduated from Shiloh, I went to a university in Minnesota. And that's where I went to Ghana for the first time. And I was there for about 7 months before I came back because of COVID. Yeah. And during coming back and preparing to go overseas, there was 2 things the Lord made clear to me. And it was that I was supposed to work with kids and that I was supposed to go overseas. And so there was a mission conference in town. And so I talked to all the booths and I met my friend Mark. He works with Every Child Ministries. And we started talking and it sounded like it wasn't going to work until he said he wanted to create a foster care system in Africa through the local churches. And so that is what I'll be doing. So last February, I went down there to check out the organization and all the things that they were doing. And I also brought a suitcase to donate some stuff. And it was really cool to see how they help not only children, but their families as well. And so when I came back, my mom and I prayed to make sure this is where we were supposed to go. And we heard God say go. So that is what I'll be doing, is heading over. My mom, when I came back, I also had to apply for Every Child Ministries, and they had a shoe drive. So we had to pack the van full of shoes, and we drove that all the way to Indiana. And then I got accepted, and I delivered all the shoes. So let me tell you a little bit about Every Child Ministries. It started when the founders went to Congo. When the adults went to church, the kids didn't really have anything. And so they would either get into a bunch of trouble or they would just annoy their parents. And so ECM was created, and they started with creating a Sunday school curriculum. And that is how they started. And they added a bunch of programs to what they are now. And they're in 3 different countries as well. Thank you. So if you guys were wondering where Ghana is, it is in West Africa here. It is between Togo, Benin, and Cote d'Ivoire. Where the yellow arrow was is where I went when I went to that university in Minneapolis. And the square is where I'll be going now. Don't worry, I won't be living in the water. And then I'll just be living a few miles out of the capital there. Ghana is about the size of Oregon, and there's 34 million people living there. Yeah, so that's about 400 people per square mile. Haiti's 1,000 people per square mile. The US is 100 people per square mile, and North Dakota is 10. So, oh, so this is a kid in Ghana, and she is an albino, and that just makes her life a little bit difficult depending on which village she is in. They don't quite understand that. And also because of poverty, her life is very hard as well. And these will be the kids that I'll be helping with the most. It's the street kids over there in Ghana, and they are just on survival mode, and they're easily human trafficked. There's actually a human trafficking ring in a lake region in Ghana where they kidnap these kids, abuse them, and force them to fish on the lake. And if they fall into the water, they drown, and they don't care because they can always kidnap another kid. So it's not a problem to them. They also brainwash them to think if anyone comes to rescue them, they're going to cause more harm and pain, so they often flee with their captors. Oh, yes. And so I have goldfish here. So when you eat your goldfish, you should be grateful that your kids are not in the mess these kids are in. And so what the Ghanaian government does is that they would take these street kids and bring them to orphanages and have them take care of all their needs. And that just creates another problem because now that comes out of pocket. And so they have to clothe them, take care of them, feed them, educate them, and give them a place to live. And these are the kids that I'll be helping. And so what my job will be is to explain what foster care is and convince the communities surrounding the school to put the kids there. I'll be going as a volunteer. So I have been asking for funds from friends and family, and I'll be going next month. So thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you so much, Sam. And I just want to say too, if you feel led to give towards Sam, I'll be posting the link towards his give site in our Facebook group too. So, or talk to him afterwards and figure out how you can give towards him. But I think that's incredible what he's doing. And hopefully when he comes back and is back in the States, he can give us an update about what he's doing and how he's helping that community. So thank you so much, Sam. And thank you, Lori, for also putting a bug in our ear. I would like to introduce to you Sloane. She works with Center Counseling here in Bismarck, and she works with foster kids and older kids and teenagers and adults. And one of the things that I've wanted to have a training on for quite a while now is the love languages, the 5 love languages, because I think those are so important, especially when you get a new kid, and just an easy way to try to start figuring them out and how to build trust with them and bond with them and things like that. If you can figure out their love languages pretty quick, it helps things go a lot smoother in your household. And so I was fortunate to come across Sloane, and she is going to come give an awesome presentation. So please welcome Sloane.
No pressure at all. Yeah, that would be great. This is so cool. I know Sam and his mom, Lori. Sam is a classmate of my oldest boy, Isaiah. And it's a treat to get to see where they are now. As Leslie said, my name is Sloane Floberg. My husband and I are Episcopal clergy down on the Standing Rock Reservation, and we serve Fort Yates, St. Luke's in Fort Yates, St. James in Cannibal, and Church of the Cross in Selfridge. And we've been doing that for 33 years. In that time, we too have taken a lot of foster care children as well, mostly on emergency basis that ends up being, I don't know, 6 months to a year. But who's counting, right? And two of the most well, all of them are important, but two that stick out in my mind is our very first that we had. It was our first year of marriage. And we picked her up from the hospital, and we had her for several months, and then she had been placed, and then several months go by, and then we get a call again that that fell through, and we got her again, and she just became a wonderful part of our family. So it was hard to let her go. Unfortunately, when the tribe did all the stuff with BIA and social services, there were a lot of cases that fell through the cracks, and the one that we had was one that fell through the cracks, and she was given back to mom, and unfortunately my husband did her funeral. So that was a sad point in our life. But then much later, we got another person, and she spent her whole senior year with us at our house, and we still keep in contact. And so that's been really, really sweet. I have a stepdaughter, which I don't really call her a stepdaughter. She's my daughter. She's married and has 2 girls, so I'm a grandma. And then last year, I have 3 boys. The 2 oldest ones decided that they were both going to get married in the same summer. So, and now I have a grandson from my oldest son. And then we have our youngest son, who still lives with us, but we hardly see him because he's a wildland firefighter, and he's out in Montana right now because it's blowing up. So that's hard. It's also hard being an empty nester. And watching Wheel of Fortune every night just isn't my jam. So yeah. Anyhow, I applaud you guys, like Sam said, I applaud you guys for what you do. It's a hard job, pulling at your heartstrings and all of the things that go with that. So thank you very much. for doing that. How about you guys give yourselves a round of applause? Because you guys deserve it. Yeah, great. So one of the things that I do down on Standing Rock, I'm a youth minister. Been one for forever and a day. And it came to a point when I was at 40, you know, the wonderful midlife crisis kind of age. And I'm like, is this all there is? And because kids kept on coming up to me with their stories, and it broke my heart. And I just didn't feel like I had the tools to help them. So I decided to go back to school and become a counselor. And so I worked at Charles Hall Youth Services for 4 years, and did a couple of years gig down at the schools on Standing Rock, more under the pastoral counseling umbrella. And then I got a job more in the, I don't know, business side of counseling. And then a year ago, I got hired at Center, which was really my heart strings was becoming a Christian counselor. So I'm both a Christian counselor and a conventional counselor. And it's just so nice to bring the Lord into our office if people are with that. Okay. So the reason why I told you that I'm a youth minister is we're going to have a little fun. Okay? Because I don't know you and you don't know me a whole lot, but I'm sure everybody loves bingo, right? Yeah. So if I could get some help passing around some, pens. And then when you get the paper, I want you to turn it over. I don't want you to look at it. We play this in youth group a lot because everybody knows how to play bingo, right? So the object of the game, when the music starts, is you're going to have to get up. I'm sorry. You're going to have to get up off of your chair and you're going to have to find the person that fits that square. And that person is going to write their name, and it has to be legible enough for you to be able to know who signed that. Otherwise, it's not a good bingo. Okay, so some of them might be like someone who speaks a different language, someone who has a military background or veteran. Kind of gives you the gist of the game. And then when you get a bingo, what do you have to yell? But it's probably not going to be that quiet. You're going to have to say it a little bit louder. Okay? And then everybody has to stop. No writing. And you can't turn over your paper yet. That's cheating. So when the music starts, you're going to have to get up off your chair and find somebody else that fits the square in order to make a bingo. Okay, and you can't have the same person. You can only have one person signing. You can't have doubles. You can't use yourself. Nope. This is a get to know you game. So when you hear the music, it's time to get up and sign your bingo card. Yep, you have to get up and interact with other people. Yep. And you can yell it out. Yeah. So when you hear the music, you can flip over your bingo card and get going. Time. We'll have another bingo. Does that sound good? Okay. So hang on to your pens. I'm sorry. You're going to get an index card passed around. Maybe detention boy can hand them. I want to find out what he got detention for. Smoking in the boys' room. Okay, does everybody have a card? Thank you. And I apologize, you guys have to think. I know that you had to think all day today, but you got to think some more tonight. I want you to think of a time in your life, either when you were a child, teen, young adult, older adult for some of us, a time where you really felt loved. I'm going to give you some time to think about that and write it down. Or I didn't have any music for, I suppose we could play the Jeopardy. Sam, I know you're going to write something down. Or did you? Oh, you're doing your homework now. Okay, if you are done, give me a thumbs up. Okay. Some of us are still working. I'm a youth minister, so yeah, I've worked with a lot of youth. It's really hard when the kids that you worked with are now going to youth group and they're saying, hey, Sloane, guess who my dad is? And I'm like, okay, who's your dad? And then they'll say, and I'm like, no way. Yes way, no way. And then the next youth group night, they bring their dad, and I'm like, shut up. So, all right. Can I get anybody who is willing to come up here and share what they wrote? And yes, you have to introduce yourself.
My name is Michaela Butt. We are switching from Patha County. We live in Bismarck. Is that enough? Okay. Well, we rarely ever had any extra money. We barely had enough for the necessities. So we really didn't ever get any Christmas presents. And so we had one family that took us every year to go out and get like a live Christmas tree. And so that was always fun. And then one year when we came back from that, our whole living room, like the whole carpet was completely covered in toys and gifts that like we would have never been able to afford.
Oh my. Okay. Sometimes in the youth group community, we do snaps. I can't snap, but yeah, that's a snappable moment. That's great. That's awesome. Give me goosebumps. Anybody else that wants to share? Lori.
I'm Lori Desir. Mine was last week when my son Sam wiped the coffee stains off the counter for me.
Wah, wah. They can be taught. Okay, Mom, you just embarrassed me. Anybody else? Okay. It's when your principal gave you a pass.
It's a continuation of detention. So,
Oh.
my name's Ed Sharp. We are switching, or we just switched from county to Bath. So, mine is when I was grounded for a summer because I threw a rock through a window. So I was grounded for a summer, and I wasn't supposed to have a birthday party. My parents did everything they could to tell me I was having a birthday party. Far be it to me that they were going to do it anyway, but what they did to set it up was her best friend took me out bowling and said, "It's okay, don't worry about it. Your mom's never going to know." My mom was there to throw me the birthday party. So, yeah, yeah. So,
Goosebumps. Goosebumps. Anyone else from this side, maybe? Yeah.
I'm Paige Carey, and we live here in Bismarck. And we've been living in Bismarck maybe a year and a half, and I fell on the ice in the winter and broke my wrist badly, like shattered it into a million pieces. And it was, had to have surgery, and it was just this whole thing. But I was so touched by how many people stepped up. I mean, my sister-in-law came to stay with us. I got DoorDash gift cards from friends that live far away. They set up a meal train for me that lasted for 3 weeks. Like, we had food coming to our house when it was all over. I'm like, I don't remember how to cook because we're just used to food magically showing up every evening. But it was just amazing. Some of these people were people I didn't even know very well because we hadn't been here that long. And they were just people that were like, we just, heard that you're going through a hard time. You got 6 kids. I think I had 6 kids at the time. And we just want to be there for you. So I felt very, very loved. Even after the pain meds wore off, I still felt warm and fuzzy inside from all the good people in my life.
Woo. Nice. Anyone else? I don't want to leave anybody else out. Crickets. Great. So chances are the answers that you gave is a love language of yours without even knowing. I never knew about the love languages growing up. Just gonna put that out there because I grew up in the 70s. I just thought that parents were there to tell you that they love you and maybe hug you and yeah, go to school, do your homework, we support you. And I really struggled with my father. Yeah, big time. He had a lot of trauma in his life. We won't go into that. But whenever, I would say, I love you, he would say, okay. There just wasn't that connection. I mean, he called me his little spook. We had this connection where he would just look at me like, and we got it, we laughed, whatever, but it was never deep. And I always felt like there was something that I needed to do to make him proud, to make him love me. And so I would go out of my way trying to do things that would make him laugh, try to do things that, that I would get something out of him. And it just never happened. So it became my life's purpose to get this guy to be proud of me. And it hurt me very deeply. I went from boyfriend to boyfriend, whoever would tell me I was worth their while. And that wasn't good at all. And that's a topic for another time. Anyhow, several years passed. I got married, was still trying my best to make my dad proud. And years later, when I was working at Charles Hall Youth Services, I went into the same conversation mode with my dad saying, you'd be proud of me. And then give him the spiel like I would always do. And, he would say, okay, and then, hand the phone off to my mom. But this time was different. And I think it was because I talked with my mom or something. I don't know. But there was this big long pause after I told him my story. And he goes, you know, hon, I've always been proud of you. I've always been proud of you. And I had to pull off the side of the road. I was dumbstruck. I started crying. And he goes, what's wrong? And I said, I have never heard those words come out of your mouth. And I really needed to hear that growing up. One of the things that I learned when I came across the love languages through counseling is that my dad loved me. He just loved me in a different language. He provided food on the table, a roof over my head, clothes on my body. When I came home from NDSU, he would go out and do an oil change on my car. He would leave a roll of quarters in there and he'd vacuum it out. And while I noticed those things, I needed to hear those things. So it was like we needed a translator or something. He was speaking a different language and I couldn't receive it. And that's what we're here to talk about tonight, is being able to speak the language of our children, our foster children, our families, our spouses, because it really does make sense. So, the 5 love languages. Acts of service. They're, let me see. Let me do the, okay, so acts of service are just doing things, you know, like what my dad did. Leaving quarter, you know, vacuuming out my car, cutting the grass, shoveling the walk, warming up a person's car before they go out. I remember my dad always did that for my mom in the wintertime. Different things that people cannot really repay you for. Okay. One of the differences about love languages for foster kids or adopted kids has been adopted into this book, Loving Adopted Children Well, because it takes the 5 love languages and it says, yes, these are the languages, but there's a difference a little bit in how we work with children who come from foster care or adoption. So acts of service are differentiated from tasks done out of necessity. So think of your child who may want the occasional shoe put on for them. And you just do that because it's above and beyond. But for some children, how they grew up, the most basic need might not even be met to begin with. So these need to be met before acts of service are considered above and beyond. We might think that it's above and beyond, but it might not be for the kids that we take in. Some kids may revert to a younger age to be spoon-fed to form that attachment with us. For one mother, helping her foster child do chores was looked at as an act of service rather than exerting power or control over her. Making sure packed lunch has their favorite instead of, no, you will eat this. Maybe even a note in the lunchbox. So that's acts of service. Words of affirmation. Compliments such as, your hair really looks nice today. Great game tonight. Go a long way with a child who thrives on praise. Your words can focus on personality, accomplishments, outward appearance, or anything else that affirms. That's what I needed from my dad. A simple, I'm proud of you. When we focus on the outward, though, that gets hard because then it's always something about beauty or something that you can do. And so that can send the wrong message. So try to look for the things on the inside. Wow, that was really brave of you to do. And then explain what the brave was. Gifts. Children with this love language treasure gifts as a tangible token of affection. Unfortunately, they also interpret a lack of gifts as a lack of love. Your gifts don't need to be expensive. They don't need to be given every day. But recognizing that a child prefers to be rewarded with a peck of gum rather than a hug is an important step in building communication. So kind of, you know, what you were talking, that's a little bit of gifts and acts of service, you know? I know that when my husband brings me flowers, they're nice, they're great, but I kind of like it when he says, you know, your hair looks really nice today. And the only time I hear that, I think, is when my hair is really messed up. So then I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? And he goes, I'm just trying to speak your love language, gee. So anyhow, gift giving. It's really easy to overcompensate with a child for what they've lost. Birthdays, Christmases can be extra hard, and we might not realize it. You know, this is a day to celebrate. Well, that might be a day that's really hard for them. So it's a fine balancing act, right? Because it's just a reminder of who they are not with. The book here says perhaps the best gift that can be given is the gift of no expectations. I really like that. 2 girls got bears after Dad's trip. One absolutely went gaga over it and started to dress it and name it and everything. And another girl kind of threw it off to the side of the couch. And one could look at that as ungrateful and gee, but she wanted to hear about his trip. She wanted to see pictures. She wanted quality time. Quality time. Children who speak this love language seek undivided attention. When they're infants, we play on the floor with them and roll back and forth. As they get older, that quality time is found in conversations, bedtime stories, or backyard sports. The activity is not important. The time together is. One-on-ones are good. And it's not the quantity, it's the quality. So, you know, the book talks about even 10 to 20 minutes is good. My middle son, who didn't want to be a middle son, he had a problem because he had to fight for time with Mom. So he would hit his brothers, he would pinch me, he would get in my way, he would hang on to my leg when I was trying to make supper. And so when I got to know this a little bit more, I decided, okay, when I get home from work, I'm going to try this out. I'm going to spend 10 minutes specifically with Josh and sit on the couch with him and spend some time with him and see how his day went. After I did that, there were no fights or anything that night. If it was between older brother and younger brother. So that's really interesting. Anyhow, so let's see what they say about quality time here. If you're on your phone while they are playing, you are not accessible. Quality time means that you're accessible for them. Sighing when your child asks to play with you tells them that they are not important and that can be detrimental to someone who is already feeling out of place in your home. When we invest time in them, we show them their value. And the last one, physical touch. We've known the emotional power of physical touch. Infants who are held fare better than those who are not. As children get older, they still long for physical affection. Something as simple as a touch on the arm, a pat on the back, a hug. These gestures are especially important to the child with this love language. He wants to literally feel your love. And this can get hard when we're dealing with foster children. Some children revert to an earlier age, so being rocked, getting up early and waking them up gently, like with a rub on the back, so that things are not rushed. Some foster children have had a bad history with touch, so starting off with like washing hands together or even putting lotion on the arm. Horsey rides, playing patty cake. There's some, you might know it, Sam, there's some kind of thing that the teenagers do where you just get really fast. And I don't know, you can do that too with teenagers. Dancing, back scratches, even brushing hair. When I worked in the school in Solon, Cannibal, the girls would bring their brushes and they would brush each other's hair and they would braid their hair and they were just, so 20-second hug decreases cortisol, which is related to stress. Heart rate and blood pressure decreases. Kids who have been abused may recoil at touch. Others may imitate negative touch with dolls, etc. Undressing might be hard for a child, or they may undress wherever. So tread lightly, but don't ignore that altogether either. So, want you to get out your index cards. And on the back of what you wrote, I want you guys to take a guess as to what your love language is. They are acts of service, physical touch, words of affirmation, gifts, quality time. What's that? Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the actual test now. Now that you have your guess. And what I want you to do is I don't want you to think very hard with these. Don't be like my counseling exam and rethink it all and then get those wrong because I was right the first time. Go with your initial response, and if you have any Jeopardy music or I don't know, just some kind of music to pass the time. For those of you who are done, I want you to take a look at your index card on the side that I asked you to write what love language you thought you were. And if that fit you. Oh, wait. We're still adding it. Surprise, not surprised. Did you guess right on your index card? Yeah. Okay. Just, I'll give you guys maybe a 30 seconds to finish up. Just want to be mindful of time. Sometimes this is a marriage saver because you think you're doing your wife a big woo, when really just maybe doing the dishes is gonna fill her love tank. They talk about the love languages, that each of us have this tank and it needs to be filled in order to feel loved. And when we're not speaking that language, there's no gas being put into the tank. Likewise, we also have a language that we speak our love to other people. Mine is gifts. I love giving people gifts. I have an ear for, when they say, oh, I love this, but have never been able to find it. And then I'm like, Merry Christmas. Oh my gosh, that's my thing. But if it isn't their love language, it's a great gift, but thanks, kind of. So how do we know what love language our kids are? So Joel is helping, is this your son? Take a quiz where the adults ask the kids, and I have some of them over here for children and teens. But if that isn't a thing, being able to observe behavior is a good telltale sign. Love languages can be spoken pretty freely as children, whether it's high fives and they just react, or, if you say something really nice and they're, or, just kind of play like a mad scientist and really kind of experiment. They weren't too excited about this, so maybe it's not that. So yeah, that's the second way, is giving your child options. I have the afternoon off. Would you like to go out on a walk with me? Or would you like to do something else? That's another language. Okay. Also on the table, I have living out the 5 love languages at home. I have this on my refrigerator. I'll admit I don't look at it all the time. My boys are all grown up, so it's just my husband. He's stuck with me. So anyhow, but there's the love language and the action, communication, and things to avoid. So, if you want to highlight the avoids, for your husbands or your wives, I don't know. That's a thing. And so they're on the table as well. And the explanation of each gift, on the front side is for children. On the other side is for teens. And I hate to break it to you, my mind was blown when I joined center counseling because I saw a book in their library. And it's called The 5 Apology Languages. Because all of us receive apologies in a different way. So if you ever want to read this, one of them is expressing regret, the I'm sorry. Accepting responsibility, I was wrong. Making restitution, how can I make this right? Planned change, I'll take steps to prevent a reoccurrence. And the last one, requesting forgiveness. Can you find it in your heart to? When I saw this, I went, wow. So don't mean to burst your bubble, but there's some more reading that you guys can do. And by no means I haven't gotten through this book. But anyhow, let's go for 2 bingos. When the music starts, get your bingo card ready. And continue. So anyhow, when you guys are done here, feel free to pick up another test, the 5 love languages at home, test for kids, teens. Take a look at the books, don't take them. Our cards are there in case you need somebody to talk with. We have a lot of awesome people. My co-worker from Charles Hall Youth Services, Dan Foster, he also plays at Cottonwood. He's up in Washburn on Wednesdays with Center. So yeah, all sorts of fun and games. Thank you so much for asking me to come here. I was a little nervous, but you guys are a great group of people. So thank you.
All right, I guess I'm responsible for wrapping us up. So next month, I have to grab this so I remind myself. We've got a great lineup, you guys. This board has worked really hard to pull this together. So therapy options for kids and teens with trauma next month, bowel and bladder dysfunction and treatment the month after that. I'm so excited for this. I've had so many kids with issues in this area. And then our annual holiday party in early December. That's the only one that's not the second Tuesday. Take your kids home with you tonight. That would be great. There are a car seat and a booster seat. Is that what it is? Pack and play. Sorry. You told me that just a second ago, was already gone. Those were donated from a nurse. And so anybody who needs those or needs to swap out something in their home that is not, is maybe old and bleh at this point, go for it, grab those. And we'll be back here next month. I think that was everything. Yes? I have an announcement about something. Oh, well, if you want to serve on the board, you should consider serving on the board. So the positions that are available here are our vice president and treasurer. So Adam and Paige have served their term. So if you're interested in serving in any capacity, consider it. Talk with one of the board members, the Leslies, Paige or Adam, and we can get you some more information on what that looks like, what the commitment looks like. And if you are like, I can't serve on the board, but I would like to help in some way, we take help in some way too. That's great to make the monthly meetings happen. So thanks for being here. We'll see you guys next month.